Hello, my name is Tim Bailey from Red Day Technology. This is episode 32 of the BSN Long Story Short. What we're going to do today is focus on exploring the benefits of enterprise blockchain, how blockchain can streamline business processes and increase efficiency. And I have an expert panel of guests today to talk about that very topic. I'd like to give them the opportunity to briefly introduce themselves. So Alan, let me start with you.
Sure, thanks Tim. This is Alan. I come from FUJIFILM Business Innovation Hong Kong. I'm interested in this topic because I think blockchain can help us a lot on business process automation. And thanks for Tim for having me. My pleasure to share my experience here with all of you.
Great. David?
So I'm David Creer. I'm the DLT crypto and e-money lead here at GFT. GFT is technology services based in Stuttgart, but we're everywhere around the globe. We have 10,000 people, and we're very focused on innovation. And one of those areas is blockchain and DLT and all of this kind of stuff, right? And yeah, we've had many years working in enterprise blockchain area, and very excited to be speaking with you all about this. So thank you for inviting me.
Great. Yifan?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. My name is Yifan He, and I'm the CEO and the founder of Red Day Technology. So we basically one of the founding member of BSN, blockchain-based service network. So what we really believe in is, our mission is bring decentralized technology to all industries beyond cryptocurrency. So that's why, I think from the crypto industry, anything beyond crypto called the enterprise blockchain. So that's why we have today. Thank you.
Okay. Great. So Alan, maybe let me start with you.
Sure.
Maybe you can start and talk a little bit more about what you're doing at FUJIFILM Business Innovation, and then also your view on the key benefits of enterprise blockchain technology.
Sure, thanks Tim, my pleasure. Maybe I introduce a bit about the background of our company. Basically, our full name is FUJIFILM Business Innovation. The matter of truth is we help a lot of global enterprise from FSI, bank, insurance, to do digital transformation. We provide all sorts of hyper automation solutions from how to do the document understanding to workflow, and then to document repository and then analytics. And I find there are lots of benefits on enterprise blockchain to help the customer to streamline their business process. To name a few of the key benefits, I think, but I guess most of the audience also can tell. For example, the transparency and traceability of blockchain, it allows all the business to check and trace their transaction in real time. Second, I find blockchain technology can reduce the cost significantly and also improve our efficiency. A lot of intermediaries and related costs could be eliminated. And this does significantly improve our business process. And also, I think all of you also understand the security and privacy unique value of the blockchain, like the tamper-proof and immutable ledger. This mechanism also ensure our data privacy and security. Last but not least, I think the trust and collaboration between different organizations also could be enhanced by the blockchain technology. Because with a blockchain network, we can share and collaborate, share the data easier, and then collaborate with different organizations across the network a lot easier and more efficient. I think these are all the reasons we tap into blockchain technology and start to introduce some of the application to our customers.
David, as part of an organization, GFT, that focuses on the banking sector, are there other key benefits beyond the ones that Alan mentioned?
Yeah, so I think so what we see in the banking sector is that people use blockchain internally and more often externally, and the issues that there are in the banking sector that can be focused on around the use of data and how data is shared between different participants. So when if we're talking about capital markets, for example, when we're doing a trade, you maybe have like 5 or 6 different participants in that trade. You have the bank as maybe the global custodian, then you have a sub custodian, then you have a clearinghouse. You might have an asset manager, and then you have the final client, right? An exchange also could be involved as well. So there's a lot of different people in that process, and there's a lot of data that needs to be able to be moved between those different network participants. So how do you connect all these things up? Well, at the moment, they connect all of these things up via separate systems, which are everybody uses. So maybe the bank and the custodian and the local custodian might use one system. Maybe the exchange and the investment bank might use another system. Maybe the end user will use a completely different system. And the problem with that is twofold, right? It's how do you connect all of these systems together so that they run more securely, and so that you don't have necessarily any kind of breaks along the line? And this is a big issue for banks, because if you have a break along the line, it's not just that the data is let's say kind of affected. It's actually that might mean that the trade doesn't go through, people end up losing money, etc., etc. But also, because of the fact that they're spread across all of these systems, they need to reconcile at the end of the day, because we have 5 different separate systems. If something says, we're in the payment process or the settlements process in one of the systems, and the other one says, actually, the trade is just matched, we're not even in the settlement process yet, then you have an incoherence between these 2 systems. And what banks do at this point in time is they have a end of day reconciliation. And that end of day reconciliation means that they have to stop trading. So they have to stop trading at the end of the day. The reconciliation process of that many thousands and thousands and thousands of trades that they're doing might take 3 or 4 hours to do. And then they go back, and the following morning, and everything is reconciled. They fix all the errors with the operations teams, blah, 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 blah. If you use DLT to be able to do this, then in theory, everybody should have the same value on the position. So it should be very clear that there's no incoherence between any of the systems. Even if you keep the original systems, the DLT can be the let's say the golden source of truth underpinning these systems, so that if there is one system which is out, it just looks at how the position should be to be able to say, oh, actually, why is my data different to the position? I need to update my system, and that's it. And that's a very quick fix compared to comparing every single individual system at the end of the day and then reconciling all of the data on every single one of them. So that's a real big issue for the banking sector. It's something that they need to look at, and that's probably one area. And then the other thing is, how do they use blockchain to be able to provide new products to their clients? So for example, we've been doing a lot of stuff around tokenization. And tokenization of I don't know, like physical assets, for example. So tokenization of physical art, that is an asset class that doesn't exist right now. To create a new asset class is actually quite a complicated process, and there's quite a lot to go through. But actually, to tokenize something and to have it available on an open marketplace, either a public open marketplace using public blockchain infrastructure or private blockchain, a private permission blockchain, is a completely different way of approaching it, and is a lot more simple than kind of creating a new asset class, making sure that all of the systems that are using the traditional asset classes also use this new asset class. And it's a lot more flexible in the way that you can do that. So on one side, I would say definitely about improving systems, reconciliation, how data is always used. On the other side is creating new products, and creating new products generally through tokenization. And that's where I think the banks are mainly focused on.
So David, I'm going to go back to a point that you made earlier around data and the importance of data in enterprise blockchain. Obviously, data and data privacy and data security is something that's very important for a bank, right? But when people think about blockchain, then they think about transparency and the ability for everyone to see how much is in a wallet or something like this. I think it's sometimes confusing for people because they say, wait, if this is transparent, if it's on a blockchain, it's transparent to everyone. how could a bank use blockchain technology when their data is obviously very sensitive? Can you explain how you reconcile those?
So, you can have your cake and eat it, I suppose, is what the situation, right? Because there are a number of different blockchain implementations where, especially with private permission blockchain, but also some public blockchains now, where they basically use different types of encryption methods to be able to share data privately between different participants on the network. So what that means is that you do have a distributed ledger in most cases. So everybody has a copy of the ledger on each of the nodes, but the way that you access the data on that particular ledger, or the way that data is communicated, is encrypted. So that if I want to be able to, if you and Alan do a transaction between the BSN and FUJIFILM, GFT might have that data on our node, but we won't be able to see the details of that data, because we won't be able to disencrypt it, because we don't have the appropriate private key to be able to disencrypt or to decipher, sorry, the encryption that there is on that data. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is through private channels. So some blockchain infrastructure uses private channels, and then the private channels of communication are therefore encrypted, and that's another way of doing it. And then some other blockchain, and then there's other ways of thinking about it. So some things like Corda, for example, take a completely different way of thinking about it. So they don't have a distributed ledger as such. They actually work on a kind of peer-to-peer basis. So not everybody is connected to with the same ledger. It's actually more kind of more like a bilateral communication, where this is saved in a ledger and signed cryptographically. But if you did a transaction between the BSN and FUJIFILM, for example, I wouldn't even have that on my node. It's completely separate. It's more like a messaging bus. So I think one of the things that we have to bear in mind is that obviously the further you get from, let's say, a completely transparent ledger where everybody can see everyone, to a ledger where potentially only certain people have the data in certain areas, then you could argue that maybe you have, less resiliency, less transparency, all of these kinds of things. Some people do say that, but there are some business use cases where you actually need to be able to pull away the data and remove it from the network. For example, I think it's Poland, maybe Malaysia. I can't remember the other countries. You can't take data out of those countries for certain capital markets use cases, right? If you can't take data out of those countries, but you want to connect them to a global network, then you can't do that using a traditional blockchain technology, because even though you're only making a connection between, I don't know, Poland and maybe internally in Poland, for example, that will just get gossiped out to the rest of the network, right? And then you're breaking these data rules which are set by the local regulators. So in this case, there's really no alternative there. It's either don't do it, or you do it using the new kind of new technologies which do prevent this kind of data sharing in a more kind of elegant way, I would say. So you can have your cake and eat it, though it's not the original vision of how a lot of people think about blockchain.
Yifan, talk a little bit about your view of how blockchain can increase efficiency in a business. And if I'm a business, a traditional business, and I'm kind of looking at my process and my operations, where should I be looking to apply decentralized technology?
Okay, I totally agree with what Ali and David said. First, the blockchain technology is a multi-party technology. So if so only one party or just two party stay with centralized technology, it's the most efficient and the cheapest. Don't even use blockchain technology. So that's so the more participants there are, the more efficient it is, because remember if we break down to the communication layer, so the traditional way basically is the point-to-point. So sometimes I use a phone call kind of analogy is when there's no no conference call. So only 2 people, you pick up call and call this guy, the problem is solved. But if there's 10 people, how you make the phone calls? Remember, no conference call. So you have to call 9 people, everybody give you feedback. You need to give feedback to other people. Our people give you feedback. After 500 calls, you kill yourself. Okay, nothing gets solved. But same with conference call, same 10 people, same phone, and the same thing, same matter. 20 minutes, everybody log in, discuss, talk about, everybody hears the feedback, give feedback, 20 minutes done. Why? Same 10 people, same telephone, same thing. But this takes like 3 months and someone killed himself and this 20 minutes is done. Why? Why? It's because how the data transfers. It's the broadcasting one by one. So internet actually is built based on this kind of no conference call structure. If there's 10 IT systems talk to each other, there's always a centralized system, collect everything, send back to everybody, passing around, So, but with blockchain, it becomes a conference call. So that's why sometimes I talk to, when I explain the blockchain technology to non-technical people, I say, okay, what blockchain is allow multiple IT systems to have conference calls. So I don't know if they understand or not, but I start from the people to the machines. So that's actually a proof why it increase the efficiency. Just replace, the people with 10 machines. Same thing, right? So that's why. So the more party there is, and the more efficiency it increase. So, and also the benefits actually, we usually talk about like 4 major benefits, the transparency. Because when you have this kind of private IT system, you put the data there, you can never prove to other people the data is there. No matter how you build your system, you can give APIs, you can do all kinds of things, but it's in your backend. You can modify data when data goes through the APIs. So basically, nobody knows what happens in your backend system. But with a multi-party system, everybody monitoring, more transparency. So it's you can actually prove the data with third party, right? So it's more trustworthy. So then easy connectivity. When you need to talk to other 9 people, you plug in a conference call, you immediately link with them. You don't need to connect like 9 times. So easy connectivity, right? Then there's ownership of data. We all know this cryptocurrency is a wallet, you own it, no bank can, shut it down, freeze, you own it, right? And also, like David said, single point of failure, right? Still, let's go back to the conference call. When if it's regular phone calls, if the central guy died, killed himself, after that nobody can find anyone because the central guy killed himself. But in a conference call, this guy killed himself, the 9 people still talks and laugh at him, right? So something like that. So that's why it's in a blockchain, any system go down, the other systems still working with each other. So there's a lot of benefits. We can come out like 8, but those 4 are the major ones.
Yep. Alan, let's dig in a little more into the details, particularly with what FUJIFILM is doing, and how FUJIFILM uses blockchain technology to streamline business processes, and not only streamline it from an efficiency perspective, but how can it also improve the customer experience? Can you give us some specific examples of some of the work you're doing?
Sure. I could share one of the POC that we have been doing with HSBC before, which is to leverage the enterprise blockchain to create a smart contract. I think this does create tremendous benefits, which echo to what I mentioned above. Basically, the POC that we did is we try to imitate a contract that lasts for maybe like 12 months. You can treat it just a rental agreement. For example, every month we need to pay a certain amount of the rental from party A to party B, and then in every month end, that amount of money will automatically pay from party A to party B through the payment gateway of HSBC. So you can imagine that both parties have a smart contract which is immutable and which is also transparent. And after forming this contract, nobody can kind of change any content or detail of that contract. And all the payment will do automatically in a certain period of time, and with also other party like the bank to help settle the payment. So I think this POC does illustrate most of the benefits we just talked about on the blockchain technology. Because no matter the privacy, the security, the share of data can all be done on one single blockchain network. While we can all the party can enjoy the efficiency and skip all the paper, skip all the back and forth data exchange. So this is something that we did, and I think one of the key area that we will continue on is using blockchain to create smart contract, to create different business process around those smart contracts. And regarding Tim's questions on user experience, I think there are lots. Let me raise another example, which I think this example also very common in supply chain management. Let's say if there is a global trade or a global trade transaction, basically there is a lot of activities from document like bill of lading, like those custom clearance, and also proof of truth of all those goods. Basically, it involves a lot of data exchange, and many of the data in the legacy system is still on paper, and then a lot of manpower and time and resources is involved because no matter whatever there is some data transfer from one party to another party, there may be chance that those data may be lost, or the integrity of data may have compromised. But with the blockchain network, all the parties involved in this global trade could be shared in the same network. As Yifan mentioned, even some of one of the departments suddenly disappear, or one of the parties suddenly disappear, basically everything still goes very smoothly. Yeah, I think this is some benefits of the blockchain, and it does improve the customer experience because it improves the efficiency a lot, and it also prevents a lot of fraud and potential issue. And in terms of identity verification, also streamline a lot because this is a lot easier and secure. So I think all this could enhance our customer experience by using a secure blockchain network.
David, do you maybe switching again to the banking sector? Do you have any good examples, real world examples of improved efficiency, but again also the customer experience and how it can benefit?
Yeah, so maybe thinking about Hong Kong. You have Hong Kong in your background there, so maybe we'll think about Hong Kong and Project Genesis. We were involved in Project Genesis last year with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Hong Kong government, the HKMA, ourselves, digital asset, all infra, number of banks, and the HKX as well. And that was a really interesting project because that, as well as providing a huge amounts of efficiencies, and I kind of get into that, it also provided a new product for retail clients. So what we were doing is we were basically creating a retail green bonds product. So this is something that's never been done before, to be honest with you. Green bonds up until this point in time have always been on the corporate side. So corporate buyers, or let's say like banks themselves buying them, or asset managers buying them and then creating funds from them, which people can buy. But actually, clients of banks being able to buy green bonds directly using their banking application is something that's never been done before. So it was very innovative, and it opened a new asset line for them. And there was a few things that were also interesting around that. So it opened a whole new thing. People want to be able to buy green products. They can buy these green bonds instead of buying, I don't know, crypto or traditional financial services assets, for example. And then the underlying bond itself was actually underpinned by green data from energy sources, so solar farms or wind turbines or whatever it is. But that green data was also validated via the blockchain. So we were working with All Infra for this, and they basically have a system where they have the IoT devices that are connected to the wind farm, so the wind turbine, sorry, or the energy, or the solar panel in the solar farms, and they basically monitor that solar panel or monitor that wind turbine, and they make sure that the energy output is stable, and they also monitor that the IoT device has not been removed, moved, taken offline, all of that kind of stuff. And they do a ping I'm not sure if it's every minute or two, to their blockchain network, to be able to say, this IoT device is here, the energy output of the energy device is this, and the status of the IoT device is this. And we then use that to be able to underpin the actual green bond itself. So we get all of these IoT devices, they all come together, we create a green energy feed. That green energy feed is then added into the bond term sheet. No, I think it's actually the issuance part of the bond itself. So you create the term sheet of the bond, which is like the conditions of the bond. Then you create at the issuance point, you plug in the green energy feed, and the green energy feed is therefore let's say immutably verified, to be able to give much more security over the data which is basically underpinning the bond itself. And that means that when people are buying the bond, they really know that it's actually green energy that is underpinning the bond, and you haven't started off using green energy and then swapped to a coal-based power plant or something else completely different, right? And obviously that doesn't take away the role of the auditors. The auditors were also involved, and there would always be an initial audit, probably an audit every 6 months or maybe 3 months. It depends on the setting. But it does mean that between these auditing points, you have a lot of confidence in the data. And in the green bond area, there is this whole idea of greenwashing, to creating green bonds on things which are not really green, and that this system actually gets rid of that issue, and that's quite significant for people that want to be able to invest in green bonds. And then on the other side, we had all of the efficiencies regarding the actual bond process itself. So I think Yifan was talking a little bit about efficiencies of blockchain before, and about how secure automation comes into play. Well, here it's in the banking area. This is really important actually, because if you have manual processes where somebody needs to look at something and tick a box, that person, generally an operations analyst or some kind of trading analyst or whatever it is, are very highly paid individuals, and they do a great job. There's no doubt about it. But for them to spend 5 minutes analyzing a bond term sheet or whatever it is, to make sure that has been done correctly and then approving it, that 5 minutes might cost, I don't know, $500. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm making that figure up a little bit, right? And using this kind of system, what we can do is we can kind of get rid of not just some of the intermediaries, but also we can get rid of some of these manual validations. That doesn't mean there aren't any manual validations in this process. There were some manual validations in the process, but the amount of manual validations were cut in half, because we are now automating these kind of validations using smart contracts to be able to basically automate them, and to be able to make sure that the companies that are involved in this, so the HKMA, the HKEX, the banks, whatever it is, doing their thing and they're doing it correctly, and there's confidence in that validation, even though it's automated, because everybody can see that it's been done correctly. So, and that, I can't remember what the figures were, but that saved hundreds of millions of dollars potentially over the course of let's say like a month period, when you actually get to scale this to running hundreds of bonds. So I think that's maybe quite a good use case, because it shows how data provenance and data is protected on one side, and then how efficiency is gained on the other side. And also it's about Hong Kong, which is in your background.
Good. Alan, I'm going to come back to you on this one. When Fujifilm thinks about the future, what types of investments are needed to implement blockchain technology, and how should what advice would you have for other enterprises looking at picking up the technology?
Sure, Tim. Maybe I could share a bit more, because thanks for having BSN indeed. After we joined the BSN, basically we are exposed to a bigger opportunity. But before we join, we just have a lot of considerations before we really invest into this blockchain network. There are several challenges that is in our mind indeed. First is about the regulatory and legal challenges. This is first thing comes to our mind indeed before we invest. However, from the latest, if you Q&I in the Hong Kong government, basically I find there are lots of activities in Hong Kong SAR government, which in a sense quite support virtual assets as well as the development of Web 3.0. For example, like in April, our Chief Executive John Lee also did several bureau chief to have an opening ceremony in the Institute of Web 3.0, which are also a kind of indication for us that there are some regulatory and legal support will come in place soon. And also government is also considering to study the regulation of stable coins. This also help us gain more confidence. And the latest budget also stated that another 50 million Hong Kong dollar will be allocated to develop Web3. So I think these are the challenges that at the very beginning we think maybe some hurdle for us to invest, but now becomes our drive and our push to invest. The second is about the cost and resources requirement that we need to invest on this area. Before BSN, basically most of the transaction or the gas fee that we need to pay on a blockchain network, most of those is cryptocurrency. But thanks for BSN, we don't need to rely on cryptocurrency for those gas fee. And what's even better is BSN provide a very low price gas fee, which is very stable and almost flat, which can also help us to get more confidence on invest on this area.
So the gas. So just to clarify, the gas fee that you're talking about is a fiat-based gas fee rather than a crypto, right?
Yes. This is important for our enterprise blockchain network, because if I talk to our customer or even our company, hey, your company need to pay us in cryptocurrency, then it becomes a very a big variable, right? When they form a blockchain contract or a smart contract, sometimes it's $1, sometimes it's even more expensive, sometimes cheaper. So this becomes very difficult for them to consider. So I think before we really invest, we just look into the challenges, and then we find many of the challenges are going to a more promising area. After then, we start to invest on some technology infrastructure. As Tim asked, what I suggest to other audience could consider, I think the technology infrastructure that you need to put in place. But again, I just mentioned BSN provide a very good platform for us, which also lower the technology infrastructure that we need to invest. The second area, I think you need to consider security and compliances. No matter the local law or your own company's compliance. and privacy and also data security also key consideration. But blockchain does secure some data security, which also help us to move forward faster. But still, you need a lot of security experts to make sure that you handle all those smart contract with care. And others, the investment, I think most of them is more on human resources, training and education. And training and education, including internal and external, how we educate our customer the benefits of blockchain. And we does also spend some investment on consulting and advisory services, because the technology is evolving, the service is evolving. Maybe some other company, when you invest on blockchain, you may need to spend some investment on consulting and advisory services, so that you evaluate what part of your business or contract will move to the blockchain. So I think this will be the area that I think all of us should well consider.
Good. Thank you, Alan.
Maybe if I may. So I think Alan very rightly spoke about the challenges for companies to be able to pay gas in crypto, and what that meant from an enterprise, as in the enterprise has to hold crypto. So from a legal and compliance standpoint, that's quite difficult. But if we kind of like take maybe a few steps back and we say, how do clients of these big enterprises approach crypto? For me, we have to remember that most people that are the clients of FUJIFILM, or clients of a big bank, or clients of I don't know, a department store, whatever, they're not technology experts. So this idea of everybody having a wallet, being able to send gas, being able to pay for transactions, all of these kinds of things, is actually not very realistic. Most of the time, either the enterprises or the technology providers, or even the financial service providers themselves, need to provide this infrastructure for their clients. And that's obviously from the the payments of the gas and all those kinds of things, but it's also the wallets, it's also the how do you get connected to all of the different networks, it's also the all of the the swapping mechanisms, all of those kinds of things. And the more that enterprises can abstract away really what blockchain is on the underneath, and use it just to underpin internal business networks that they have themselves, and remove that need for the client to actually understand blockchain, I feel the better. So I just wanted to make that clear, that I think it's really important in all the enterprise blockchain things that we've done. We've had this very abstracted view of how the clients use blockchain, and don't try and put any of that on them as such.
Yes, I mean, I'm often asked, well, when will blockchain be a mainstream technology? And my answer is always when people stop talking about it, right? When it just becomes some underlying technology that a mobile app or a service, is built on, right? Yifan, I know you're often thinking about the future and public IT systems and decentralized technologies. When you think ahead, 5 years and 10 years, what are the types of things that people interact with today, like every day that they're involved, that you think will have blockchain technology as an underlying component of, right? And again, back to my point about it's something that that my mother would use, that would have no idea. She doesn't even know what blockchain is still, but she's able to use something, and she finds it easier to use and more valuable. What are those things that you see in 5 or 10 years?
Okay. First, let me still talk about the public chain right now, right? The crypto is in there. Sometimes people still discuss how to build the enterprise blockchain application on those public chains. I always kind of this kind of total, what I call is absolute decentralization, which means everybody can join, everybody can vote, everybody can. That kind of IT structure is the sole purpose is to building something unregulated. That's it. Because I mean, so how many things in the IT world you need to be unregulated? Because unregulated means the government has not, just cannot regulate that. So that's why, you know me, I always, attack cryptocurrencies a little bit. That's why I actually call cryptocurrency as unregulated security. People love unregulated stuff, because that you're there to make money, do something wrong, nobody cares, nobody will arrest them. So it's fun. For new technology, it's always something unregulated. Then the law comes in to regulate.
Let me correct you. People love stuff that's unregulated until they lose a lot of money. And then they say, where's the regulation?
No. It's like the regulated stuff, like the socialized, order, which means everybody in time make everybody to play fair, right? Unregulated means like nature, like the strongest to win all, but everybody thinks they are the strongest until they got eaten.
Until they're not, right?
Yes. But there's still few people win most, right? So that's why, I personally still think, it's really hard for enterprise blockchain application to build on public chains, because it's, it's just not fit in for any kind of enterprise blockchain, because for enterprise blockchain, it's always related to business. Business is always regulated. So that's, that's basically my logic there. So, and to answer your question, in 5 years, I think, there's, many things that will be built on this kind of decentralized technology. The first thing, definitely currencies, the money. Which means even your mom, make payments, it goes through, her phone. It's actually stored in the hardware wallet, embedded on the phone. So it's not go through, a bank account anymore. It goes through her own purse, like her own purse, but in digital. Then she basically can move that very quickly, on her own timelines. It's not like you transfer something, the bank process it. It's basically, so the currency. The second thing is, when someone visiting a website, that website no longer store your personal data. Okay, your personal data stored locally or on a decentralized cloud where nobody can delay your stuff. Then, when you go to Facebook, anywhere, when they need to scan your face, they go to your database, not their own database. So it's a huge difference. You don't feel it, but it actually goes when you. Right now, the problem with Facebook, everybody blame them. I don't blame them. They are internet company. It's built that way. If you want to go to, Facebook, you want to make a post. That you basically go to their home, writing some article on their wall. They're supposed to own the copyright. You come to my home, writing something on the wall. That's my copyright, not yours. Okay, so that's how. But in the future, even the content you generate on a website is actually stored on your database, not their database. You need a decentralized way to control it. So you don't feel a difference. And when your friends visiting Facebook, then the Facebook, basically need to show your data. They actually go to your database to pull that data on their website, and you can even control who can view with your decryption keys. Your friends go there, say your content. If not your friend, go there, basically couldn't even say the content, and the Facebook couldn't even say the content. So that should be the future. And also verification, because you have all your identities in your database. So how to verify who you are changes. Right now you go to a website, input, username, password. In the future, it basically go to your phone or go to your decentralized cloud, database, basically to check a certificate. Then you log in. So I think in probably 10 years, 15 years, there's no concept of username passwords anymore. Yeah. So think about this. This is actually then everybody have their own database, how to interact with each other. Then the payments become no longer between banks; it's between individual wallets. So this actually changed a lot of things. But I need to emphasize is a lot of data and the processing will move to this kind of public multi-party system or Web3 in crypto term, okay, Web3. But still the majority of data and the process still stays in everybody's backend system. It's like you go to a meeting, but you go back, you still come back to your home. So the backend system is still the majority. So it's like a coexistence between Web3 or Web2. Then the question is, which one you use? It really depends on your business model and the business requirements. If you need security, you need privacy, you store the data in your backend system. If you need to share the data, share the process, you need the transparency, you need the easy connectivity, you build multiple different, multi-party system with, whoever you want to, interact the data with. So it's really become a common knowledge to all the developers, how they design the whole system.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Yifan, for that view into the future. And I want to thank David and Alan also for joining us today. A lot of great insights and thoughts and experiences on enterprise blockchain. So thank you all for joining today, and look forward to seeing you all on a future episode. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, team.
Yifan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.